What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel. Some of you might recognize the tag from Seek and Jube's squadron, but it is in fact not their squadron. It is mine, Ion Ratio. Seeing everybody around me become a War Thunder content creator has kind of inspired me to try to bring forth my own content, and hopefully something that you guys are going to enjoy. Today I am covering the P-51, its strengths, weaknesses, and what kind of competition you need to watch out for. This is of course all relative to its battle rating of 3.3 in air realistic battles, so keep that in mind. Let's cover the basic categories of what I think makes a good fighter playing in air realistic battle. We have turn, climb, top speed, acceleration, and energy retention. Diving right in, we're going to go ahead and start off with turn. I give this plane a score of 3.5 out of 5. I think it's fair to say that the P-51 can outturn most of its adversary. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a quick list of the aircraft that the P-51 can reliably outturn at most speeds, but keep in mind, certain aircraft perform better at certain speeds. So the blanket statement of, for example, the P-51 outturns the Bf-109E3, that's just simply not true. So keep that in mind going forward. That being said, the P-51 pulls very well at high speeds of 600 to 700 kilometers an hour or more, relative to other 3.3s. At medium speeds of 300 to 600, it still maintains an edge over much of the competition, and as it gets slower, the flaps can come down from the raised position and go down to combat or takeoff, giving you that much more angle on your turn if need be. Flaps are not always recommended when dogfighting, which we're going to get into a little bit later, but they certainly have their use, so you do want some good flaps, which the P-51 has. At low speeds of 200 to 300 kilometers an hour, the P-51 experiences an exponential decrease in angular turn performance. Getting this slow is never recommended, but sometimes a dogfight just leaves you no choice. In these situations, flap usage and knowledge is going to be paramount. Finding the line between using the excellent landing flaps to get any kind of actual good pull and not using them to keep some airspeed, that's going to be tricky to learn, but it is a must. Basically, the P-51 can turn at low speed with landing flaps, but other aircraft of the BR also using landing flaps will pull inside of you more frequently. Turn rate isn't something I want to spend that much time on, but real quick, the P-51 is not very good in a raid fight. Comparative to other 3.3 planes, or planes at least close to 3.3 in BR, the P-51 pulls a low amount of degrees per second while raiding, so try not to make your turns like a NASCAR racetrack on the deck, and try to force more of a scissor type turn. Next category I'm going to be covering is climb. I'm going to give this score based on the plane's time to climb from 0 to 4,000 meters altitude. I find that not much combat ever happens at 5 to 6 kilometers altitude, meters altitude at 3.3, so that's why I'm basing it on the 4,000 meters for this video. I was surprised to find that the climb rate of the P-51 is actually pretty good compared to its peers. It can reach 4,000 meters in about 3 minutes and 29 seconds. I give that a score of 4 out of 5. On screen here is a few examples of some of the planes that the P-51 outclimbs to 4,000 meters, as in it can get to 4,000 meters in less time. The optimal climb speed is 240 kilometers an hour IAS with WEP, or 230 kilometers an hour IAS off of WEP. That is at least according to the community-made climb chart, which I'm told a few planes on that chart are outdated, but most of the planes are still accurate, so take that with a grain of salt. The link to the chart is in the description down below. Moving on to top speed, the P-51 gets a score of 4.5 out of 5. It is fast for a 3.3, at least after flying in a straight line at sea level, it's fast for a 3.3. Here are some planes on screen that you're faster than, but remember, this is flying in a straight line. Getting to top speed in a reasonable amount of time is usually going to require a slight dive, in which case other variables come into play. Nonetheless, the P-51 equips itself with the ability to catch and run away from almost everything at its BR, which can be a handy tool to have, as well as enter dogfights at high speeds without needing to sacrifice altitude in a dive to do so, and that is even more important. That's all fine and dandy, but how do we get to top speed? That's right, acceleration. The P-51 leaves a little bit to be desired in this department, and I'm going to give it a score of 2.5 out of 5. Mid accurately describes this aspect of the plane. I'm not going to go and waste time looking through for aircraft that you can out-accelerate because there's very few. Safe to say, if you get slow and need to extend away, you're going to have to rely on gravity to help you to get some of that speed back because the engine just isn't going to get it back quick enough. Our final category is a little bit more nuanced, much like the turn category. Energy retention is a vital aspect of a good fighter plane. The most extreme example of its importance, I think, is well illustrated with the Ta-152H. This is a plane at battle rating 6.0 that is extremely underpowered in the engine department, producing similar power to 5.0 aircraft. Yet, due to the energy retention that its airframe alone provides, it still manages to be one of the most lethal dogfighting planes at 6.0. While the P-51 certainly is no Ta-152H, it doesn't completely dump all of its speed after a single turn, so I'm going to give it a score of 3 out of 5 on energy retention. If you enter a fight utilizing your high speed potential, refrain from using flaps unless absolutely necessary to get your shot in, or likewise evade the enemy's nose. If you can manage to fly in at high speeds and not use the flaps unless absolutely necessary, the P-51 can drain a good amount of planes at 3.3. I'm not going to show you a list because, as I said, this topic is much more nuanced, and as such, every situation will be vastly different. But overall, the decent enough energy retention the airframe/engine combination provides allows you to fully make use of the speed advantage of this fighter. Learning good lines to take in reaction to your opposition is going to be critical in playing the P-51 as a high-speed energy fighter that isn't using flaps. Because of this, I'm going to caution that this plane, like many American fighters, is not the easiest to pick up and start acing every match with. But at 3.3, it is a very effective fighter and definitely maintains an advantage over most planes of comparable BR. Finally, with the technicalities and the script out of the way, let's get into actually talking about some of the gameplay on screen. Pretty much everything has already happened. I'm at like 7 kills in this match. But for the most part, you see me just using the high speed of this plane, the boom and zoom. I'm kind of zooming in and out of the target zones, and I'm picking off people that are stalled out or low on energy. And this is just pretty basic stuff. It's nothing that the P-51 specifically does really well, as I almost die in a head-on there. I just wanted to try to get as many kills as possible. That guy was on his 6, my teammate was on his 6, so I wanted to try to kill him before my teammate did. Didn't work out, took some damage, we land, and now we're going to go deal with these 2 Russian planes. So up until this point, I've pretty much just been boom and zooming, using the high speed of this plane, and getting in and out, being way too fast for any of the enemies to actually follow me. But what happens when you're playing something that's actually maneuverable, somebody that actually knows you're there and is trying to kill you? Well, look at how I'm entering this fight right now. I'm a little bit offset to the Yak, so that if he wants to shoot me, he's got to pull around even harder and turn himself around more, making him lose even more speed. I entered that fight about 500 meters more altitude, as well as going about 500 kilometers an hour. I can play a vertical here, loop myself around behind him after he stalls out, and now I have the tail of both of these enemies. The LA-5 is on his way toward my 0 teammate, and I'm just sitting on the 6 of this Yak-1B. The Yak-1B is going to be a little less interested in the 0. He's going to want to try to deal with me. The LA-5 dies to a head-on, and the Yak is going to begin turning around for me. I'm just going to hold right behind him, continue doing his exact same turn, but I'm doing it above him. Now, as he tries to loop himself around to get a shot in here, I'm just going to go straight up because I had already started above him. I did the exact same maneuver, and so I'm going to be able to carry that energy a little bit higher than he's able to. We stall out. At the top of the loop, I throw the landing flaps down. I didn't use the flaps up until this point to save some speed and some energy, but now that we're stalling out above him, the landing flaps come down to give me that angle that I need to get the shot in here, and we blow him to pieces with the 4 Hispanos, which I haven't mentioned because I don't really believe in rating planes based on guns that much, but having 4 Hispanos is a very good deal for 3.3 planes. Main takeaways for combat is, of course, enter the fights with a lot of speed, try to have a bit of an altitude advantage at the very least, and be conservative with your flap usage. Don't just go full landing the second you get the chance to. Hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll see ya.